Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Seth, clinical psychologist, Dr. Seth Meyers, and this is just a continuation video of my ADHD video series on how to manage ADHD better. And in the last video that I did, I talked about how ADHD can cause a person to have more conflicts, arguments, and fights in their relationships. And so one of the things I talked about in that video was the importance of knowing the triggers for those arguments and conflicts, knowing the specific triggers. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about once you know the triggers for these conflicts and arguments that you have in relationships, how to prevent them, specific things that you can do so that you can prevent them. Most important, though, I do need to highlight my very favorite thing in this video, which is my t-shirt. So I got to show you this because it is my very favorite t-shirt. Good Night Moon, a t-shirt for my favorite children's book in the entire world. Who can remember the last line? Does anybody know the last line of the book, Good Night Moon? The last line, good night, noises everywhere. What a great book. I love this book. I don't know who made the t-shirt, but it is my favorite. I think I have worn it 500 times. All right, how to prevent conflicts once you feel like they may start. So, yes, it's true. If you suffer from ADHD and you have this disorder that's truly been diagnosed, it's not just that you think that you have ADHD, but a professional who has done testing with you has actually diagnosed you, then the reality is you may be more prone to get into conflicts and arguments if you're not really careful, okay? If you have been diagnosed with ADHD, it's important to understand that you may be more prone to impulsive behavior. Impulsive behavior. You have a thought and you act on it. You have a thought, you act on it. There's not enough of a pause. There's a lack in the sort of cognitive filter that goes on. There's not enough of an editor working to say, hey, wait a minute, let's take a moment and maybe we don't want to do that or maybe we don't want to say that. So it's really slowing things down. If we think about ADHD being a speed, for example, I mean, maybe it's 90, 100 miles an hour at times out on the interstate. So we want to take that ADHD speeding car and we want to slow it down in those moments when you feel like a conflict or an argument might be starting. And listen, you don't need a psychologist to tell you when a conflict might be brewing or starting with someone you're in a relationship with. We all know exactly the signs when the other person is getting frustrated, when we feel ourselves getting frustrated. You can tell sometimes by the look on their face, by some of the things they say. You can feel it yourself in your body. Maybe you start to breathe a little more shallow, quick breaths. Maybe you start to feel like your jaw clenches. So we know. Now, once you identify those signs, oh my gosh, I feel like a conflict is starting or this might turn into an argument. Breathe. 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 You need to take a moment and calm yourself. You can say things like this to help relax your mind. What I want to do is avoid an argument. Now, notice the way I said that, and this is how you can talk to yourself. I didn't say, now what I want to do is avoid an argument. I'm not talking to myself in my inner dialogue that way, because that sounds threatening. That sounds aggressive. That sounds angry. No, I'm talking to myself in that moment when I want to prevent an argument, when I want to calm down my brain. I'm talking in a way that is more relaxed and loving. After you take a couple of deep breaths and pause, use this positive self-talk as a guide. You know, think about when you may have been in your life in some moments when things felt out of control. If there was ever anyone there that was comforting to you, it was probably someone who seemed like they were relaxed and in control, that they could handle things. They weren't panicked, that they understood that things were going to be okay. They were kind of gentle and firm. And that is exactly what you want to be with yourself When you feel a conflict starting in a relationship, you want to be firm but gentle with yourself. You can use self-talk and say things to yourself like this: what I want to do is not have an argument. I don't want to have an argument with this person that I care about. I know having an argument won't help me, won't help them, and will only make things worse. What I need to do is try to get myself in this moment relaxed, relaxed, relaxed. Those are examples of things you can say to yourself privately in that moment. And you can do that in 5 or 10 seconds. You can also think about your facial expressions, right? Does your face probably look angry to the other person or intimidating? Or did you try to soften the muscles in your face and look caring and loving as opposed to angry and from a fighting postured position? The two of you in these moments are not opponents. And that's another thing that you can say to yourself in those moments. Another thing that you can do to help pause this moment and prevent an argument is to ask the other person, hey, is it okay if I take a minute? Because I can feel my mood kind of off for a minute. And if you just give me a minute, I can try to kind of get back on the beam. Now, that is such an important technique because you're not storming out. You're not walking away. You're not telling the other person what you need them to do. You're not trying to control the other person. You are letting the other person know that you're overwhelmed in that moment. And also, because you asked them the question, if it's okay to take a minute, you let them in. You made it seem like together the two of you are a team and you will compromise. Now, if the other person says, no, I want to know now, then you can say to them, I understand, but I do need a minute. Now, again, notice the way I did that. The rate of my speech was slow and the tone of my voice, I used the softest edge of my voice. These are some techniques that you can use to prevent conflicts. And then finally, I just want to close this video by saying after you have had a moment, and sometimes it's a couple of minutes, sometimes it's a half an hour, sometimes it's later that day when you determine, okay, I think I feel balanced enough to be able to talk about this. You can say, you know what? I want you to know that I'm really working on this. And one thing that I really want to do is I want to try to do my part and not create or sustain any conflicts or arguments. And I will keep getting better. I hope that you're patient with me. And you can also let me know what this whole experience is like for you. Now, those conversations are about two people who are on the same team. These are conversations that don't happen between opponents or enemies, but that's so often what happens when fights or arguments or conflicts break out. And if you have ADHD, you have to be very careful about the impulsiveness because things can move so quick and things can get out of hand before you know it if you're not careful. So I hope this video has been helpful. If it has, please like this video so I know what you find helpful, and check out some of the other videos that I've done in the ADHD series. I'm Dr. Seth, and I wish you the best.